Welcome back to another episode of the Vendetta Sports Fantasy Show. Got another two-man crew today, myself and Jackson Law. Jackson, how you doing?
Doing great, man. Both representing, rocking the Vendetta shirts.
Same shirt.
So go buy a shirt.
Buy a shirt.
Go buy a shirt.
Go to the store. Link will be in the description. Buy a shirt, support the team. Going to get right into it with a recap of what has been one of the better Thursday night football games. We had Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to the Chicago Bears. Bears won 20-19. We had the rematch of Tom Brady and Nick Foles. Both quarterbacks weren't particularly great. Tom Brady, 25 of 41, 253 yards, and a touchdown. Also, a bit of confusion at the end of the game. Apparently, he didn't know it was fourth down. I don't even think the play caller knew it was fourth down because the only player remotely close to the sticks was the running back on a check down. And when you're Brady, when your biggest selling point is the combination of your experience and your awareness, that's just a mistake you can't make. And also, I'm going to say this right now. On previous shows this week, I told you, don't expect what Brady did against the Chargers to happen last night, and it didn't. Ronald Jones, 17 carries for 106 yards. Mike Evans, 5 catches, 41 yards. Tyler Johnson, 4 catches, 61 yards. Mike Evans also had a receiving touchdown. Gronk kind of came back a bit. 3 catches, 52 yards. Cameron Brate, 5 catches for 44 yards. Really spreading the ball out. And for the Bucs, that's about it on offense. Nick Foles, 243 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. David Montgomery, 29 rushing yards and a touchdown. Allen Robinson, 10 catches, 90 yards. Jimmy Graham, 3 catches, 33 yards, and a touchdown. That's really it for notable offensive performances for the Bears. I think this goes to show that the only viable fantasy player on the Bears is Allen Robinson.
I agree 100%. No matter who the quarterback is, whether it be Mitch or Nick, Allen Robinson has been the only one that is consistently of that receiving core that's going to get open, and so they're going to throw him the ball. 10 receptions. That's a big chunk. That's 1/3 of the completions that Nick Foles had last night. So he's getting a lot of targets out there. So, but yeah, he's the only viable option on there. And if I am a Ronald Jones owner, I would be really upset and would be begging the Bucs to run the football more. One, because I don't think the Bucs can win. If you're having ancient Brady throwing over 40 times a game, I just don't trust that. And I agree with you. Even though I thought the Buccaneers were going to come in and they were going to win this game, I didn't think that Brady was going to have as great of a week as he had last week. But Ronald Jones, like you said, 17 carries, 106 yards, averaging over 6 yards a carry. You got to feed the guy more times than just 17 times. He at least should have gotten the ball 6-7 more times last night.
Yeah, Brady, you could also see it down the stretch near the end. He wasn't really able to get it done. We can say one thing about his awareness, but also when you don't have the physical tools, when they're not at their peak, it's hard to really perform in crunch time and in fantasy. The reason Jameis Winston was so good was because he had a strong arm and he was just taking deep shots. Brady doesn't have the strongest arm. He's not going to take a ton of deep shots. One thing I am kind of sad about is I don't think Scotty Miller had a target. Kind of sad about that. During the game, I was like, come on, Brady. Throw it to the short white guy. That's kind of been your thing for the past, 10 years.
That's how he's succeeded.
Yeah, so bit of a yikes about that. Do we have any takeaways other than the fact that Allen Robinson is the best fantasy player on the Bears?
No, the Bears are the Bears. Even at 4-1, this is a false 4-1.
It's an ugly 4-1.
It is a very ugly 4-1. So I'm not going to trust them. They're not going to win their division, and there's no one else fantasy-wise talking about in that group of people. If you got Allen Robinson, kudos to you.
Moving on to the weekend games. Jacksonville Jaguars at the Houston Texans. Who do you see being a big fantasy player this week?
Definitely, probably, I would say Deshaun Watson. This is not that great of a Jacksonville team. And so, and then it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this Texans team reacts with Bill O'Brien no longer on the sidelines, which is a long time coming. He should have been gone a long time ago, even before the D-Hop trade, but especially after the D-Hop trade is when the higher ups in the Houston's organization should have just gotten rid of him. But I think Deshaun Watson finally, maybe, hopefully, against a not that terrible but not great overall Jacksonville team, but definitely not the Jacksonville defense that got them so deep in the playoffs a few years ago. I'm expecting him to have a pretty big day.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the other quarterback, Gardner Minshew. And this is also because I kind of want to try to speak it into existence because I picked him up in our league. I picked him up in our league, so he's going to be my second quarterback.
I also have Deshaun Watson, so I'm trying to speak that into existence.
I'm trying to speak this into existence. That Houston defense has not been great. We saw it against the Chiefs, Ravens, Steelers. Like, they just have a death row of – they just had a brutal first couple of weeks. And also, like, the Vikings aren't a terrible team. Like, Kirk Cousins may stink. All right, I will give you that. Kirk Cousins may stink. But that Houston defense was not good at all. And so I'm thinking Gardner Minshew can have a big week, and I also really need him to have a big week because Scotty Miller got me a total of 0 points last night. Bengals-Ravens. Again, I think Lamar Jackson's going to have a big week as usual. It's against the Bengals defense. Well, it's the Bengals defense. That kind of speaks for itself. I also think Joe Burrow is going to struggle a bit because for the past 3 weeks, he's had over at least 300 passing yards in each week. I think he's going to struggle against this Ravens defense because they're a great defense. They're well coached. They have a lot of talent. Joe Burrow is not going to be able to put up 300 yards on them. What do you say?
It is definitely going to be tougher for him just because, like you said, this is a really great defense, probably one of the best defenses in the league, and Joe Burrow still a rookie quarterback. You know, Bengals still trying to kind of find their identity, but you know, Burrow doesn't have a terrible receiving core. There's a couple of guys in there that he can rely on, but. I think he won't blow this game out of the water. I think if I had to put a number on it, I guess he'd be around like maybe 250, 270-ish, kind of in that range. But I'm kind of tending to agree with you that I think even though on our Vendetta picks, the weekly betting line picks that I do each week, I picked the Bengals to cover because I am kind of banking on, even though if Burrow doesn't have like yardage-wise an excellent game, I think Burrow does kind of carry them a bit this week.
I think Burrow's just going to get tricked into throwing at least 2 interceptions that after the play, you're going to be like, oh, that was fucking terrible. But in the play, it's what do you do? That's what I'm thinking is going to happen. Yeah. Panthers-Falcons. I'm thinking Teddy Bridgewater is going to have a good day because we see that Falcons defense is atrocious. It seems like week 2 or 3 of every year for the past couple of years, it's been like who on the Falcons defense has gotten hurt. Like injuries, lack of depth, lack of talent. I think everything's in place for Teddy Bridgewater to have a big day.
I agree. He's who I'll be paying attention to in this game. And this Atlanta defense, it's so horrendous. And Bridgewater secretly has kind of had a pretty good season. I think he's in the top 8, I think, in yards. He's actually fairly high up, which is surprising. Fantasy-wise, he doesn't get a lot of points because he's only got 4 touchdowns and he's thrown 3 picks on the season. But I think Sunday, could be his big break for the season and kind of not necessarily, I guess, justify the signing by Carolina and letting Cam go, especially what we've seen Cam doing in New England. Except recently he's been sick with COVID. But I agree. Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, Matt Ryan is also just gonna find a way to throw for at least 270 passing yards, a touchdown or two, because he just finds a way to do it because the Falcons stink, forced to throw. And you walk out of it, he has a decent day. Raiders Chiefs. Sorry, Alex, ahead of time. I see Patrick Mahomes dismantling this Raiders defense. It's improved from last year, but not enough to slow down Mahomes.
I agree. Mahomes just has too many weapons. Even though Mahomes sometimes struggles against his division opponents, I think Mahomes does have a big day. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire even has a bounce-back day after that first week high. He's kind of mellowed out a bit, but I think this could maybe be a resurgence week for him.
Mm-hmm. Cardinals versus the New York Jets. This Jets team is atrocious. Like, someone gets Sam Darnold the hell out of there. It's atrocious. I don't know how Bill Bryan got fired before Adam Gase. That's absurd to me. But Kyler Murray hasn't had a strong year. Like, going into the year, some people were saying he's going to be an MVP. Well, he hasn't had that great of a year. So I think he's going to have a great day, mainly because it's against the Jets defense, who has no pass rush. It seems like they can't cover at all. Not going to be able to stop Kyler Murray on the ground. I don't think there's anything getting in the way of Kyler Murray putting up at least 30 points unless he gets hurt.
Yeah, and an extension of that, I think DeAndre Hopkins could have a huge day.
Absolutely.
That's who Kyler Murray's going to look at. There is absolutely no one in that secondary that is going to be able to cover Hopkins. So if Murray wants to, he could just throw it up and let Hopkins do his thing, and he's going to do it. It may be a repeat performance of Week 1 where he had like 150 yards receiving and a touchdown. He could very well, I think, probably get back to that this week against this Jets team.
Absolutely. It's just an atrocious Jets team. Now the Battle of Pennsylvania. Philadelphia Eagles against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm going to say this right now. I think Carson Wentz is going to struggle this week. It's the Steelers defense. They are a great defense, great pass rush, great corners, good secondary overall. Linebacking core is coming together. And I can see Ben Roethlisberger having a good day. I can see Juju Smith-Schuster having a good day. Mainly because this Eagles defense, it's not good. Like, they don't have – I can also see whoever the starting running back is, if James Conner gets majority of the carries, he's going to have a great day. If Benny Snell gets majority of the carries, he's going to have a good day. Because the Eagles just don't – it seems like they don't have a linebacker. It seems like their linebackers just suck. Like, we talk about the guy at a pick six. He was in the CFL last year. He was in the CFL last year. So I think that there's not much standing in the way of the Pittsburgh Steelers offensively having a great day in fantasy. And if you're playing with defenses too, that Eagles offensive line has not been good. This Steelers pass rush is very good. If you need to start a defense, try to start the Steelers.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. This one isn't necessarily one where it's like looking for people to start. It's like looking for who not to start. And it's never ever start anybody that is on this Philadelphia team. If you are one of those unfortunate people where Carson Wentz is, your QB1, I'm sorry, I fear for his life every time he steps out onto the field. Because that offensive line is just so atrocious. They're one of the worst running teams in the league, too. And I would also expect if there's anyone that kind of could have a sneaky performance, I think James Conner could have a really good day. This isn't a great running team. They're giving up over 100 yards per game. So if Conner sees most of the carries, then he could have a big day, especially if they get down in goal line situations.
Absolutely. And also, just to harp on injury front and Eagles offensive line not being good, Lane Johnson didn't participate in practice Wednesday, limited on Thursday. Alshon Jeffrey, limited on Wednesday, didn't practice Thursday. Deshaun Jackson, limited Wednesday and Thursday. On this Eagles team, I don't know. I don't think you can realistically start anyone because I don't know who's even going to play. I don't even know who's going to get any share of the targets. And as for the Steelers team, like the Eagles, they get injury after injury. You know, we saw on Brandon Ayuk's massive run that last week, Monday night, that I believe it was Darius Slay, like took a helmet to the kneecap.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's fine. Also, he's not on the injury report, so he's fine, but still. Don't try, if you can help it, don't start anyone on the Eagles. I picked up Gardner Minshew because I didn't want to have to start Carson Wentz. And yeah, moving on from that.
Yeah, you'd probably have better luck getting points if you picked up a backup somewhere and started them this week than you would with any Eagles player.
Mm-hmm. The Los Angeles Rams against the Washington football team. Washington football team has demoted Dwayne Haskins from starter to not even dressing on game day.
Mm-hmm.
Los Angeles Rams walking into what has been a very good defense for the Washington football team. Like they beat the Eagles strictly because of their defense and their pass rush. Who's gonna have a good week this week? Is anyone on Washington gonna have a good week, or is it just gonna be a train wreck on offense?
I'm looking at their breakout running back Gibson. Despite the players that are on this Rams defense, predominantly like Aaron Donald, for instance, they're still giving up over 123 yards to the rush this season, and he had a great breakout performance. Gibson did last week, and coming in with a new quarterback and Kyle Allen, which I don't even understand why they are demoting Dwayne Haskins the way that they did and the way that they are. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But I would expect Gibson to be the big workhorse for this coming week. And if there's any chance that this game stays close, it's going to be from Washington pounding it on the ground.
Yeah, if there's any chance the game is close, it's going to come from the running game. Antonio Gibson, like we talked about his breakout performance, it was really just because he had 82 receiving yards.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in terms of on the ground, 46 yards, a touchdown, then he just has 4 catches for 82 yards. So also that mainly, he's been all right throughout the year. Like previous week, 49 rushing yards. Like last week was his big week just because it was his receiving yards. And for a running back, you need running back who's going to be able to catch passes and get yards that way. I think he might be the only potential bright spot on the Washington football team and Terry McLaurin. Outside of that, there really isn't anything. As for the Rams, I can see Jared Goff struggling quite a bit. Mainly because the Rams' offensive line, for the past couple of years, we haven't been sure what we're getting from it. Jared Goff, Trey's been harping on this, not great quarterback. If he gets put under pressure, he's not going to have a good day. And then when the quarterback doesn't have a good day, it's hard for anyone else on the offense to have a good day. All right, moving on to the Dolphins against the San Francisco 49ers. Unsure if Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be playing. He was limited both Wednesday and Thursday. If Nick Mullins starts, or if whoever starts, if it's not Jimmy Garoppolo, are we starting a 49ers quarterback this week?
No, I wouldn't, because the Dolphins defense, it's not the greatest defense. But they've been able, even though they're 1-3, they've been able to keep all their games close and relatively to a low stat, even with giving up over 300 yards per game. I still wouldn't trust anyone but Garoppolo back there.
Yeah. And also going on, like, it's whoever Kyle Shanahan decides to start at running back is going to have a good week. That's just been the way it has been forever. As for the Dolphins on the offensive side, looking at their injury report, Devontae Parker was limited on Wednesday, but full participant Thursday and Friday. Can we see Parker having a good week against the 49ers defense?
I think he can. Yeah. He's obviously the number one target for Fitzpatrick. Has had a pretty good season so far. Maybe not to the extent that Dolphins fans were hoping from him, but that also comes with the fact that you have Ryan Fitzpatrick as your starting quarterback. That massive beard, I feel like, may sometimes get in the way of his throwing motion. I don't know what's going on with him. But
he makes it work.
He does. He makes it. He looks like a manly man out there, and I respect that. I can't grow a beard like he can, so it's part jealousy and part respect coming out when I talk about Fitzpatrick. But it's tough. There really hasn't been super breakout performances from anybody on this Dolphins lineup, there probably won't be the case until Tua steps in as quarterback, which probably won't be anytime soon. If it is this year, it won't be until later in the season, probably until like the Dolphins are eliminated from playoff contention, because this is not a playoff team right now. But if there's anybody that's going to have a decent performance today, it probably would be Devontae.
I'm just going to say this about Ryan Fitzpatrick. This year, it's either he throws no interceptions or he throws no touchdowns. Week 1 against the Patriots, 3 interceptions, no touchdowns. Week 2 against the Bills, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Week 3 against the Jags, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Week 4 against the Seahawks, 2 picks, no touchdowns. It's a lot of what the hell is going to happen with Ryan Fitzpatrick. And going against the San Francisco 49ers being a good defense, I could see this being another week where he throws 2, 3 interceptions and no touchdowns. And as we move on to the Giants and Cowboys game, here's the thing about the Cowboys. Great fantasy football team. Like, if you have an offensive player, you are set.
Yeah, I've got Cooper and Lamb on my team, and both of them had great weeks last week.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
But it was for a shit ton of yards, a lot of touchdowns.
He's the league leader in yards right now, almost 1,700 yards
through 4 weeks. That's insane. And then Zeke's also good. Aside fumbling issues aside, he's solid. He's very solid for fantasy because he's the workhorse back in Dallas. I think it's more of like, who the hell, like, who's not going to have a good game for the Cowboys? Like, we know Dak's going to. It's also against the Giants. I don't think there's any starting player on the Cowboys offense that's not going to have a good week, barring injury. Like, unless Dak gets hurt, he's going to throw for at least 300 yards. Unless Zeke gets hurt, he's going to run for at least 100 and a touchdown. And then, between Gallup, Cooper, and Lamb, they're going to find a way to divvy up the yards. They're all going to have solid days. This is a can't-lose situation if you start a Cowboys offensive starter.
I know. I'm licking my chops right now. Ready for Sunday. Ready for this game.
Glad I don't play you in fantasy this week. As for the Giants, Daniel Jones has been atrocious this year. There's been absolutely no bright spot on that offense. Is this just another case of do everything in your power not to start a Giants player?
Yes. Even with as bad as Dallas's defense has been this year, which it's a lot of it has to do with they are just injured out the wazoo. They're probably looking at practice players. If the trend continues, they're going to have to do what the Eagles have always had to do with receivers and just go pick a dude up from Denny's that can run a decent 40 or is just a big guy and then just put him in pads and throw him in the game. But yeah, just stay away from anyone on this Giants team. And that goes for no matter who else they're playing the rest of this year. Just don't do it. Even if the Giants and the Jets, I don't know if they play each other this year. If they do, I'd honestly stay away from both teams that game.
Not much more to say there. Like,
nope.
Stay the hell away from Giants players and try to get some Cowboy starter on your team. Going to the Indianapolis Colts against the Cleveland Browns. I think we can say that Phillip Rivers isn't going to be a great fantasy quarterback, for the rest of his career. because he doesn't have to be the guy who has to throw it 40 times a game to win. They can rely on the running game. They can rely on Jonathan Taylor, who was okay last week. 17 carries for 68 yards. One bright spot I will say about recapping from last week and going in, Mo Alley Cox has been all right. You know, you want to trace guys for who the fuck is that guy. Outside of that, is there really anyone who can make an impact on this Colts offense for fantasy?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I have T.Y. Hilton on my team, and let me tell you, it's been bad. It's been bad. In fact, I think the only reason why if he ever plays is because I don't have anyone else on my team, and it's sad because he was Andrew Luck's favorite target, but then Luck retires all of a sudden, and then Rivers comes in, still understanding that he's not going to be the Rivers that he has been. It's just, I hate to see that because I've had Hilton on my team in years past, and he's done really well. But yeah, there's not really anyone else on that Colts offense. And then with the Browns, it's the Browns, so it's like that's what makes me hesitate to really kind of like pinpoint who's going to be doing what, especially with Chubb being out. Relying a bit
sucks
more
for me.
on the pass. Yeah, that does suck for you.
Both my running backs just got hurt, and like Barkley's on IR. Chubb's on IR right now. I can't win.
No, it's tough out here.
It really is.
But and it's like the Browns last week looked like the Browns how everyone expected the Browns to be. But that's the one time in like 2 years that they've looked like the Browns that we've expected them to be. And so I'm still hesitant because, like, Odell, it looks like he's having a decent year, but most of those stats come from last week. And that's how it was last season, too. They always have this one game that pulls you back into thinking, oh, here are the Browns. This is the Browns we're thinking of. Odell, Jarvis Landry, they're excellent options. Baker Mayfield, going to have a big year, going to be a great option as a quarterback, top 5 quarterback in the league. I don't know.
The Dallas Cowboys have allowed 38-plus points in their last 3 games. Even in that blowout victory for the Browns, they scored 49 points. Baker Mayfield only had 2 passing touchdowns and 165 passing yards. If you can't put up at least 250 yards and 3 touchdowns when you put up basically 50, you're never going to be an elite fantasy quarterback. Talk about Odell. He hasn't done much. Like, he had a massive week. That's because of one end around that went for 50-plus yards, a 37-yard touchdown from Jarvis Landry, of all people.
Yeah. And that's why Jarvis Landry had a good week last week.
Yeah, because receiving-wise, Jarvis Landry's been terrible this year for fantasy. Never over 70 yards. Never more than 5 catches. He only had a good week because he threw a 37-yard touchdown to Odell. And Odell only had a good week because he had a 50-plus yard breakaway run on an end around.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was a flash in the pan for the Browns. It was against the Cowboys, who past couple weeks they've just been letting up points for anyone. They're like, hey, look, you want a touchdown? Yeah, go ahead. Just run right in for a touchdown, man. I do not give a shit. That's basically what it was. The only somewhat reliable part of the Browns is their running game, and that's because they have good running backs. Kareem Hunt's had 11 carries, 71 yards, 2 touchdowns, and D'Ernest Johnson just comes out of fucking nowhere and has 95 rushing yards. Like, Browns running backs are the only reliable part. They're the only reliable parts of the Browns that you can take for fantasy and be comfortable having.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not comfortable with Baker Mayfield at all. And, like, if you want to talk about Baker Mayfield having, whatever, you can call it a bounce back year. You can call it he's going to be good for fantasy. Allow me to remind you, he has 7 touchdowns and 2 interceptions on the year, 729 yards, in 4 games. And Ben Roethlisberger has 7 touchdowns, 1 pick, and 77 yards in 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not saying Ben Roethlisberger is an elite fantasy quarterback. I'm just saying tone down the Baker Mayfield hype. That's all I'm going to say. Moving on to the Sunday night game, the Minnesota Vikings against the Seattle Seahawks. Who do you have being a good fantasy player? Outside of Russell Wilson, because that's a given.
Yeah, well, then it's going to be the receiving core of the Seahawks. So, like DK Metcalf, for instance, I think should have a tremendous game this week. And I mean, it's hard not to talk about Russell Wilson in this situation because, like you said, that's a given. But since Pete Carroll has unleashed Russell Wilson finally, everyone else around him has gotten to eat. So like DJ Metcalf, David Moore, Tyler Lockett, I think those guys, if you've got those 3 guys starting, there's an excellent chance that you reap the rewards of Russell Wilson just going off and continuing what might possibly be, depending on how Aaron Rodgers continues to play, could be an MVP season for Wilson.
Yeah, Russell Wilson's going to be amazing, and DK Metcalf has been very good this year. I think Trey has him in our league, so he's pretty happy with that. And as for the Viking side of things, I think it's really a case of Dalvin Cook is going to be the only viable person. And Justin Jefferson has actually been coming onto the scene a bit, proving himself. 4 catches for 103 yards against the Texans last week. Adam Thielen, 8 catches, 114 yards, and a touchdown. Dalvin Cook was the real bright spot, though. 130 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. It's Dalvin Cook or bust on the Minnesota Vikings offense. The Seattle defense isn't great. That's the one thing I'll give the Vikings offense and Kirk Cousins, Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson. The defense for the Seahawks isn't great.
It is literally the worst defense in the league. It is ranked 32nd,
which is surprising.
It's weird, and it's weird because they're 4-0 right now, which they haven't played too terrible of a schedule, not like super tough and whatnot, but they've given up a lot of points. They've given up the least amount of points they've given up was 23 last week to Miami. But the fact of the matter still stands is that offense is just too overpowering for other defenses to stop.
We're going to the Monday night game, Denver Broncos against the New England Patriots. Can anyone on the Patriots be viable if Cam Newton doesn't play?
If Cam Newton doesn't play, no. They really can't, because that offense the first couple of weeks, the reason why it was moving and grooving and they were doing so well, even with the loss to Seattle, was because everything ran through Cam. And because he, on those handoffs to where, it's an option handoff to where he can take it, where Cam can take it and run, or he just hands it off to Michelle, whoever else is in the backfield. Just his presence there, and you as a defender knowing that Cam can run off with it, that makes you hesitate.
And that he can run you over.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, he'll take it and he'll run you over. Or if you commit too much to Cam, then he's going to hand it off to whoever's in the backfield with him, and they're easily going to gain 6-7 yards on that play because the defense is caught out of position. But without Cam, not really, especially with Hoyer or as the quarterback,
Ham.
or Stidham, Stidham, which I don't think he's going to see the field, even if Hoyer throws like 4 touchdowns, maybe, but who knows? But no, there's no one. And then just kind of looking at this offense for the Broncos, maybe Melvin Gordon, because Phillip Lindsay has been out, and he's been kind of the number one guy that's taken most of the carries in the backfield. Judy has, despite the fact with playing with multiple quarterbacks this season, has done well for being a rookie, but he could kind of be like a boom or bust type of guy week to week. just because he doesn't have, his number one guy in lock back there. So this could be just another one of those games where, if you have to start someone, you have to start someone. But if you have a better option, then I would take that option over someone on this team, unless possibly it's Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I will say, do not start a Broncos quarterback because Brian Rippon was playing against the Jets, who we've been dogging on for having a terrible defense, and they do. And he threw more interceptions than touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Stay away from Broncos quarterbacks. Going to the other Monday night game, the LA Chargers against the New Orleans Saints. We saw a bit of a resurgence from Drew Brees last week. Can we see it happen again?
I don't know. Like, it's 50-50 at this point, because it's like he has a great game and you're thinking, oh, yeah, Drew Brees, he's fine, no big deal. His arm's fine. And then the next week he puts up a fat goose egg. And even with someone like Alvin Kamara, who's going to get his points, who's always going to do fairly well just because he's a great dump-off option for Brees. So if Brees is having a tough time getting the ball down the field, then he's going to look for Kamara, and Kamara's going to score big. But especially without Michael Thomas out there, which is he? I keep. It's like, is he healthy right now, or is he still out? Do you know?
We are taking a look at the injury report. He was limited participation for Thursday's practice. And that's all we got.
Limited. Okay, so he's probably questionable then. Okay. But it's possible because there's a few players like Joey Bosa is out. Or at least he's questionable.
He did not participate in practice on Thursday.
Yeah, so it's not looking good for him, and he's kind of the catalyst of this Chargers defense. So I think if Brees has a decent week, it's because he's dumping it off to Kamara. Like he won't have a whole lot of use, I don't think, this week, but I think he can get you 2 or 3 touchdowns, with 1 or 2 of them being a dump off.
Yeah, definitely. Most of his production would be from dump offs to Kamara. As for the Chargers, the Saints are a solid defense in the sense that they have Cam Jordan coming off the edge. They have Marshawn Lattimore in the secondary. Marcus Williams is a solid safety. Outside of that, Herbert's going to throw – I have a feeling Herbert's just going to end up throwing an interception this game because he always has in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
His best game was against the Buccaneers last week. 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, 290 yards, 14 rushing yards. I don't know if there's really much on the Chargers offense that's really screaming, wow. Like, Keenan Allen's a good receiver. But the Saints have a really good defense. Like, do you feel that anyone on the Chargers can have a great week?
I don't think like a great day. I think maybe Allen and Eckler could have like average days. Allen is one of those guys. Just
Austin Eckler's hurt. Austin Eckler.
Oh, is he hurt? Yeah, you're right.
He's out for I believe another like 4 to 5 weeks.
Damn, I pulled a Stephen A. Smith there.
Yeah, you did.
I got it right here in front of my face, and I just glanced over it. But anyway, Allen would be kind of like the only one, but because he'll probably get a decent chunk of yards. I don't know if he'll get a touchdown though. That's just kind of how Allen has always been in fantasy.
1 touchdown on the year so far.
Yeah, and that's how it always is for him, and that's why he's always teetered in between being a great fantasy pick or not, or in real life, in a real game scenario, he's probably a great wide receiver that you want, but fantasy wise you don't, because he'll kind of like Julio Jones, maybe not on like Julio Jones's level to where he's going to get a lot of yards, but he's going to have a low amount of touchdowns. But that's the reason why he stays kind of relevant in fantasy, is because he gets a good chunk of yardage from week to week, but just never gets touchdowns to push him into that elite level.
Moving on to the final game, we got some Tuesday night football here. Buffalo Bills at the Tennessee Titans. Is this game even going to be played? because the Titans still haven't been allowed to enter their facilities again. We saw that apparently, like, they met up just off-site at a random high school and practiced, and then that worsened the outbreak within the team. So is there a chance the Titans even play this week? Because I don't think it's likely.
I don't think it's likely either. It's really low. There's no way that because they're supposed to have like 2 days in a row of no COVID positives, and then that third day, as long as there's no COVID positives, then everyone can meet up at the training facility. But obviously that didn't happen, and so there's not going to be enough time.
They had no positive tests today. On Friday, they had no positive tests.
But are they still like? Because I know
they're not in their facility yet. They cannot enter their facility.
So, like 3 days is not enough time. Like we see teams struggle on 4 days. Just a few days.
You've seen teams struggle on Thursday Night Football, which is exactly. You have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to get ready. Exactly. Here they're gonna have they're gonna have like what, Sunday?
Yeah, exactly. They'll have, and it's not just even that. It's like you don't have the team together to where you could really dive into the game plan or the film, whether if it's film on you, things that you need to fix, or whether if it's film on Buffalo, things that you could try to take advantage of on game day. So I don't foresee this game being played. If it does get played, then the Titans are walking away with an L. And I would pick Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs to continue to have big game after big game.
Got them both in my team. Let's go. But I'm terrified because I don't know if this game, there's a good chance it's just not played. On the account of the Titans aren't going to be in their facility until Sunday or Saturday at the earliest. The NFL might just say, you know what, screw you guys. You broke protocol. We're just going to give you the forfeit, which that would also screw me because I have Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen. Would love to get news on that Saturday. Would love to hear the verdict on that on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm sure if you were to ask the players, they would want to play, but just like from outside, from practicality, and then someone could get hurt. If people aren't working out for these couple days, for basically this 2 weeks really that they've been away from their facilities. There's a good chance that someone may get hurt because at least before the season, even with the high number of injuries we had,
hamstring city.
Yeah, exactly. You could there was at least training camp before the season started, so you could at least get into playing shape. There's no way that you can have 1 or 2 practices and then roll out there into full speed situation. You're gonna have guys, like you said, hamstrings. You're gonna have guys getting cramps. You're gonna have guys winded. They're gonna be tired.
You're also just gonna have guys just flat and out of shape, unconditioned. Because with football, the only way to get into game shape is to actually play games. The only way to get into football shape is to play football. Practice to play games. Being in shape in terms of running, weightlifting, that's completely different than full speed football. And because I can see, even if the Titans do play, even if players don't get hurt, they're not going to be as good. Derrick Henry is not going to be as good. Ryan Tannehill is not going to be as good. Overall, it's just going to be an ugly day for the Tennessee Titans if they even play.
Yeah, and just the high number of players that are out with COVID. I haven't seen the full list. I've seen a few names on there. I can't remember any specifics right now. But just from the sheer fact that they have a lot of players out from COVID, maybe it's someone that is on the defense or the offensive side of the ball that they kind of need there and is not too replaceable, or maybe instead of when they make substitutions, maybe instead of the second string guy coming in, you've got a third string guy coming in who's seen little to no field action. So there's that comes into play too.
Yeah, it's going to be an ugly game. Any closing thoughts?
Not really. No, just again, buy a shirt. Helps us out.
Buy a shirt. Check out the store. Check out the site. Check out the other stuff on the YouTube. You want to give any news on anything? Or?
Yeah, a couple things. So I do the Maximum Football Series I will be recording a new episode tonight. Finally, I've got every one of us on Vendetta back into the game. I have recustomized the team, and we will begin week 1.2. And then new podcast to the Tandemonium Sports Show with myself and Brian, who's new to the site. We've got a brand new podcast that's out now. So go check that out.
Those first 2 games were preseason, weren't they?
They were preseason.
We'll say that. We'll say they're preseason.
Alternate timelines.
Alternate timelines. Indeed. Other than that, give Steelers their bye week back, make the Titans forfeit. We become 4-0. Perfect. That'd be great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe for other great content. And until next time.